For psoriasis, 75% clearer skin is achievable with reduced redness, thickness, and scaliness of plaques. For psoriatic arthritis, Otezla is proven to reduce joint swelling, tenderness, and pain. And the Otezla prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. It may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you.
Millions of people across the country are losing weight and improving their health. What do we all have in common? Nutrisystem.
Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month. It's your favorite foods made healthier.
No counting, no measuring, no weigh-ins.
Order your 28-day plan and save 40% off every program.
Join the millions who have lost weight and improved their health. Go online right now.
Order Nutrisystem now, and for a limited time, save 40% off every program, plus get probiotic shakes free.
I don't keep track of regrets, and I don't add up the years. But what I do count on is Boost.
Delicious Boost High Protein Nutritional Drink now has 33% more protein, along with 26 essential vitamins and minerals. Boost High Protein. Be up for life.
Dun, dun, dun. Come make a wish, then make them bounce. Pride on your lips, come make that sound. Drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it. You gotta work it, work it, work it, work it, work it.
Ready to Juvederm it? Correct age-related volume loss in cheeks with Juvederm Voluma XC. Add fullness to lips with Juvederm Ultra XC. And smooth moderate to severe lines around the nose and mouth with Juvederm XC. Tell your doctor if you have a history of scarring or are taking medicines that decrease the body's immune response or that can prolong bleeding. Common side effects include injection site redness, swelling, pain, tenderness, firmness, lumps, bumps, bruising, discoloration, or itching. As with all fillers, there is a rare risk of unintentional injection into a blood vessel, which can cause vision abnormalities, blindness, stroke, temporary scabs, or scarring. Juvederm it. Talk to your doctor about the Juvederm collection of fillers.
We've always had a few close calls, but this one looks like it's coming right to us.
All right, welcome back to the Weather Channel's continuing live coverage here as Hurricane Michael gets closer and closer to Florida's Panhandle. We are live in Panama City Beach, but we have crews stationed across the state to keep you protected and to give you the updates here as we await the storm, during the storm, and after the storm. We have a team of people from Apalachicola, Florida, where we have Mike Bettis. We also have Tevin Wooten, who is live in Tallahassee, Florida. We have myself here in Panama City, and then we also have the expertise back in studio. We have storm specialist Carl Parker and also meteorologist Alex Wallace tonight to keep you up to date with the latest on what is now a major hurricane headed this way. It also has the potential to strengthen into a Category 4. So this is the concern. Everyone needs to be in their destinations now. Time is ended for preparations. The outer bands are within the 50 miles of the Florida Panhandle. So we're going to start to see those tropical storm force winds really start to move in probably after midnight tonight local time. And then by tomorrow morning sunrise, it is going to look very different here from Panama City all the way back towards Tallahassee there along the I-10 corridor. Take a look at the situation we're dealing with. We're here at Pier Park at the edge. The beach is just off to my left, off to the right on what would be a very busy night. There's a lot of restaurants, a lot of shops. Look at this. You barely see a soul. We have a couple security patrols that have been patrolling the area. Of course, mandatory evacuation here for Panama City Beach went into effect at 6 a.m. And this is Front Beach Road. Aside from local law enforcement and a couple stragglers, people who are going to stay behind, that's all we've really seen. It pretty much is deserted. It kind of feels like a ghost town. That's actually good news. That means people heeded the evacuations. Now, there are about 1,200 hotels here in Panama City Beach, most of which have been evacuated completely. Empty, rooms, dark. as they are preparing here for the arrival of Hurricane Michael. Let's take you back earlier today. Take a look at this time lapse and what we saw here in Panama City. We had a few showers earlier this morning with some of that beginning moisture starting to work in here towards North Florida. Take a look, though, the clouds rotating in with those outer spiral bands and then some clearing. We did have quite the sunset this evening. Later in the show, we'll show you what that looked like. But again, it's kind of been one more nice day to finish up those preps and to get out of harm's way. Take a look at the empty streets here in South Walton County. This is about 15 miles to our west. A popular spot, Alice Beach. You also have Rosemary Beach. Look at this. No one on the streets. There's Highway 30A, completely empty. All these vacation rentals, all of these townhouses, abandoned. It's almost like everyone just picked up their things and left, okay? So imagine this. Imagine seeing the sunset tonight and then thinking about what this may look like as we go into the day tomorrow. By Thursday, when we see the sun come up, it could look very different. There could be buildings missing. There could be water covering roads, down trees. You may not even recognize what you once knew as home. So that's the concern here. That's the difficulty that we're facing. This is a very serious threat for Florida's Panhandle, something we haven't seen in quite some time. Of course, we remember Hermine, but remember, that was much weaker of a storm. It impacted a much smaller area. This is a much larger system. And by the way, the water level rise is going to be far-reaching. We're already seeing the beaches flood in Sanibel Island, Florida. That's in southwest Florida, not far from Fort Myers. And they're not even close to the center. So all of Florida's Gulf Coast, Tampa Bay, I would be very concerned here with these water level rise. We saw flooding near Tarpon Springs, which is north of Tampa, and all of those rivers that kind of go inland off the Gulf, the Econfina River, the Anclote River, the Apalachicola River, and many other tributaries and inlets that go off the Gulf, those are all going to experience water rise as well as that storm surge continues to move in towards the coast. So this is going to be the concern. Serious issues starting overnight tonight, and then tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow's the day, folks. We're within 12 hours. It's hard to believe because we really haven't seen much in the way of strong winds yet or any rainfall aside from a few showers earlier this morning, but big changes on the way. And that's what we have to keep in mind. All right, let's head back into the studio now where we find Alex Wallace with the latest on what we know.
All right, thanks so much, Chris. Indeed, what we know right now, there is a state of emergency for 3 states tonight, and that includes Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. Now, in Florida, the governor activated 2,500 soldiers tonight, and they're ready to respond. Bay and Lee County, Florida, have canceled school for tomorrow as well as Thursday, and Tallahassee and Pensacola's airports are going to be ceasing those operations at midnight. We want to get now to the very latest with storm specialist Carl Parker. He's here now, right, looking at what's happening with Michael, so the nuts and bolts of this hurricane, which is a pretty nasty one, Carl, moving through the Gulf.
You know, we're talking about a storm that may be historic in nature. We have never seen a Category 4 make landfall in the Florida Panhandle, and we may be looking at that. This storm is not very far away from becoming a Category 4, and there's no reason to believe that it won't continue to intensify. Right now, a Category 3 with winds of 120 miles per hour, moving north at 12 miles per hour. What we have seen in the last several hours has been remarkable. When you look at this satellite presentation, one thing that we look at is the symmetry of the storm. We're seeing a tremendous amount of symmetry in this storm, a very well-developed central dense overcast right in there. We're not seeing much impact from shear at all. The outflow a little bit restricted on the west side, but not so at all on the east and north side there. And notice how the eye has taken shape in the last couple of hours, a well-developed eye showing up right in there. And the hurricane hunters have been in the storm. They've been finding some remarkable winds. We found winds of 150 miles per hour at flight level, which would translate to about 135 miles per hour at the surface. Now, they've not seen that on the SFMR. That's a device that scans the ocean surface. It's very, very accurate, and we get a good sense of the wind from what's happening with the ocean surface and the sea spray. And they've only found winds up to about 125 miles per hour as opposed to 135. So there's a little bit of a disconnect right now between that flight level and the winds found on the SFMR. But the bottom line is that this storm is getting a lot stronger. It's a very, very intense storm. Please do not think that this is not going to be a big deal. It's going to be a very big deal, and it could be one of the worst storms that we have ever seen hitting in this part of the world in the northwest part of the state of Florida. We're just now beginning to see that eye wall coming into radar view right in there. Not getting a real good look at it right now, but we're seeing it there, and certainly fairly well formed at this time. And now these outermost bands are just about 50 to 60 miles away from the coast of Florida. So as they come in, the winds are going to be stepping up overnight. Already we are seeing winds that are gusting to tropical storm force at the buoys that are well offshore. And so that's what's going to be coming in overnight tonight. There you see another buoy, winds gusting to 43 miles per hour there. So tropical storm force winds moving in overnight. Right now the forecast calling for a Category 3 to be coming in towards the middle of the day tomorrow and into the afternoon. But keep in mind, again, that's not very far away from Category 4. So we certainly could be talking about a Category 4 and an historic storm moving into the coastline there. Now, as that storm comes in the afternoon, the wind's really stepping up in the morning hours and then really starting to kick into the afternoon there. You see this tremendous onshore flow, and that's going to be piling up the water in this exceptionally surge vulnerable part of Florida right in there. So we're looking at storm surge values that are life-threatening from Panama City through Apalachicola, Port St. Joe, St. Mark's, and right down into Cedar Key as well. And of course, there's the wind threat, and we're looking at hurricane warnings all across the Panhandle and the Big Bend and into southwest Georgia as well. So this is going to be a very serious storm. And we want to go now to meteorologist Tevin Wooten. He is live in Tallahassee. And Tevin, a lot of beautiful trees there in Tallahassee. And we're looking at a lot of potential for those trees to come down, power outages and structural damage as well.
Yeah, Carl, you are absolutely right. This city is known for its canopy oaks that tower over homes, tower over roadways. It looks absolutely amazing, especially when you get a nice sunset through there. However, it doesn't look amazing when those trees are down on the ground. And these are huge trees that we're talking about here. In fact, take a look at some of this video that we got earlier today, just a few blocks away from where we're standing at. This is the site of not just one park, Myers Park here in Tallahassee, multiple parks, multiple homes. You've got structures and infrastructure that are built around these trees because they're so beautiful, and that's what this area is known for. However, it becomes burdensome almost when you've got the threat of wind and damaging wind and hurricane force winds that are coming into this part of the state. So let's take a look at that and sort of break down when you can start to expect those conditions to go downhill. As far as the 25 or 50 mile an hour wind gusts, I think those are going to be anywhere from sometimes Wednesday morning through Thursday morning, but that is bookending the main brunt of the storm here, where Wednesday afternoon we could see wind gusts above Category 1 hurricane force wind gusts, so 75 miles an hour or greater. Of course, there's also the threat of localized flash flooding, too. The earliest arrival of some of those winds are expected to be tomorrow morning, right around the 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock time frame. But that's the precursor of what we're really going to see throughout the day tomorrow and into the afternoon hours. And in fact, some of the shelters here in Tallahassee are open. A lot of people are concerned about those trees coming down on their on the power lines and onto their homes, such that they got their families to shelter, and they didn't want to roll the dice and take a risk. Take a listen.
You know, when you have a storm that's coming that's got 120 mile an hour winds and you've got trees around your house, you know, me personally, I'd rather let the storm do what it needs to do to the house and everything, and I'll have to worry about my house a little later on. But I want to be safe. I want my family to be safe. So we decided just to come to the shelter. It's not hurting anything to come.
And so, of course, a lot of families are heading to some of those shelters that are taking pets, too. So be mindful of that if you're going to shelters. Some of them are open, so you can bring your pets by. And, Alex, one thing that I do want to note, it's not just here in Tallahassee we're concerned about the power outages. It stretches all the way into South and Middle Georgia. Alex.
Yeah, you said it. It's not just the coast that's going to be feeling the impacts, that's for sure. Inland areas have to watch out. We'll be checking back with you, Tevin, in just a bit. Thanks so much. So let's get you to what we'll be dealing with here, some of the timing of some of this that we'll be finding ourselves dealing with Michael. Here we go with Panama City, those 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. We'll start to look for that here late tonight, heading through our Wednesday, and then Wednesday, getting into the latter part of Wednesday afternoon into the evening, that's when we could be looking at 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts there. And, of course, there will be rain to come as well. 8 to 12 inches of possibility, and storm surge, a big issue, a certain concern. It could be looking at up to 9 feet with storm surge problems there. As we take a look at the broad overview here of some of these alerts here due to Michael, the areas that are in that purple hurricane warnings, you got a good chunk of the Florida Panhandle dealing with that. Then you get into the red zones, stretching even into southwest sections of Alabama. That's tropical storm warnings. Dothan, you're in that. Over towards Valdosta. That's a spot could certainly deal with those tropical storm force winds. Watch out again, power outage issues of concern over towards Savannah, Charleston as well. And then tropical storm watches stretching out all the way into eastern sections of North Carolina. So widespread will be some of these impacts here, not just along the coast of the Gulf Coast, but even working on the Atlantic side as well as this system moves on off towards the north and east. But here we are looking at some of the earliest expected arrival time of those tropical storm force winds. And you notice this line right there, that's basically the Florida Panhandle right along the coast. That's Wednesday right around 2 a.m. So overnight, that's when we could see those tropical storm force winds coming on in. So now's the time to make sure you have those preparations in place, because once those tropical storm force winds hit, it's too late. It's just too difficult to get anything done outdoors when those winds are whipping around. And you can see moving further along the line as those winds start to arrive over towards places like North Carolina. It looks like Wednesday evening should start to see that. So time, no doubt, is running out for you to evacuate and prepare for Michael, a powerful and dangerous hurricane. Now, most of Panama City Beach boarded up tonight. People spending the day filling up at some of these gas stations and getting the plywood and other supplies. Now, stores are running pretty low on supplies across the area. You got wood, batteries, flashlights, and tarps that are really flying off the shelves. And most of the area is under a mandatory evacuation order. The roads headed onto the beach, well, they're empty. Everyone headed out there. The beach there was pretty much deserted today. And the beach is deserted too in Pensacola. Only a handful of people were out watching the big waves kicked up by Michael. Now the storm less than 24 hours away from bringing some damaging winds, storm surge, and torrential rain here. Yeah, Michael already bringing torrential rain to Key West. There was also wind gusts clocked over tropical storm force here as Michael moved its way off to the west of the island earlier today. And this is what it was like in the Gulf of Mexico. Here's a cruise ship feeling some of the impacts here as Michael not too far away, and you can see some pretty intense waves there and a lot of lightning also showing up here there just outside. Wow. And then look at some of the damage Michael has already caused. This taking place in Cuba. High winds knocking down buildings, power out across the nation tonight. And roads also flooded after some of the torrential rains they had to contend with there. So a lot already being felt with Michael, and the worst is yet to come for us here in the States. Let's focus in on the very latest of the advisory, the 7 o'clock advisory here for you. We'll be getting another one at 10 central. Winds at 120 miles per hour here for you. Category 3 hurricane moving to the north at 12 miles per hour. This thing is looking very, very healthy, no doubt about it here. And you'll continue to see that northward progression before turning a little bit more on off towards the north and the east, making that landfall. Looks like Wednesday getting into the afternoon. That's when we'll start to see that here. But again, impacts will be felt away from where the center will be coming on in. So even outside of that, again, we could be starting to feel some of those tropical storm force winds as early as the overnight here tonight, and then continuing on off towards the north and the east. So as Hurricane Michael inches its way closer to making landfall, we're no doubt monitoring all the aspects of this monster storm, including the threat for storm surge. We're going to be taking a look at just how high that water can actually get in some areas and explain why you need to heed the warnings now. Plus, our live team coverage that continues all night long. It's everything that you need to know from the Gulf Coast. Inland, we've got you covered all over the place, across from Panama City to Apalachicola. You got Tallahassee in there, Port St. Joe as well in there. All over the place, we've got it covered there along the coast. Our special coverage of Hurricane Michael, that's going to continue next, right after the break.
Never Ending Pasta Bowl is back at Olive Garden starting at 10.